Hey everybody, welcome back to HitPoint. Let's see, make sure my audio is working. Okay, hey Baku, can I hear you okay? Just let me double check your audio real quick.
Check my audio.
Awesome, your audio looks great. Hey everybody, welcome back to HitPoint, an anime news show, an RPG news show, a niche news show, a show where Baku and I talk about anything and everything that catches our interest and or ire. We stream live every single Sunday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be previewing some trailers, talking to some developers, or at least one of them, and we're going to be responding to super chats and even asking the developer some of your questions throughout the entirety of today's show. We're live. It's been a minute, Baku. How you been?
I am doing pretty good, pretty good, pretty good. I had a whole day to myself where I just did absolutely nothing, and it was amazing. It's so much bliss.
Oh man,
Yep. How about
I
you? How you doing?
I did I redid the tiling in my bathroom.
Oh.
I'm tired. I'm really
Mhm.
tired. Mountain Dew is getting me through today's show. I hope not sponsored. Hashtag not sponsored. So we have a guest who's waiting for us, but we're gonna talk to them in a little bit because first we wanted to talk about some of the comments that we got from last week. So do you want to just kick us off with the first one here, Baku?
Yes, and I am bound to mispronounce his name, so I apologize ahead. But we've got a message from the Lost podcast that we did, which is like what, 3 weeks ago at this point, 2 weeks ago.
Might have been a couple days, yeah.
Zebusk,
Zibusk, maybe?
Zebusk. He said, speaking of trails and One Piece, if I didn't start One Piece like I did in 2020, I wouldn't have been able to start my trails journey. Told myself if I could start a 1,100 plus episode anime, I can play as JRPG equivalent of Trails, lol. Yeah, no, very apt. And yes, I said the lol. Um, yeah, no,
I
that's
feel like that's fair game to say the lol when
very
it's
valid.
spelt out like that. Uh, yeah, and I think that's also true. Like if you can't handle, gosh, I feel like Trails is not as overwhelming, honestly, as starting One Piece. As someone who has
Ooh.
gone through so many of the Trails games, I still look at One Piece. I got 7 episodes in, and I'm like, I can't do this.
Can you imagine it one day, like years later, once One Piece is concluded, they're like, "Oh, we're gonna remaster the entire thing. We're gonna redo it, new animation." They totally can. They totally. I can see it. I can
Oh
see it.
yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, if they did. I mean, by the time they finish One Piece, the first episodes are going to be retro again. They're going to be like 30 years old by the time they finish One
Mm.
Piece. They're just going to start remaking it, and by the time they're done remaking it, it's going to be retro again.
Oh,
So,
chat says they are already doing this. Get
are you
out. They're
kidding?
not
Oh
even
my
done with the
gosh.
thing yet. What are they doing? They got to start ahead because they know how long it's going to take.
Well,
Oh
we have
boy.
another comment here from Penguin Dude. Oh, I see what they did there.
Yeah.
They said, on the topic of Sea of Stars, it felt better to just run around the world and do whatever than progressing the story. I don't know how to explain it, but the story and some of the characters just didn't feel interesting enough to interact with. The world design, though, is 10 out of 10, though. The world design is actually just 10 out of 10, and
Yeah.
the navigation system for Sea of Stars was also 10 out of 10. Like just
Mm.
like you haven't played yet, have you, Baku?
I have not. I
You
would have
have the
started yesterday if I didn't decide to do absolutely nothing. I needed a break.
Yeah, sometimes mental health days are just as important, and unfortunately sometimes when you stream or talk about RPGs, playing those games in your downtime suddenly doesn't feel like just downtime anymore, right?
Oh, yeah, it feels like, oh, I'm about to make some content with this. Oh no, this is turning into work.
Mm, no.
Mm,
I mean, it's a blessing and a curse. They say do what you love, but it's whatever. Anyways, yeah,
yeah.
I 100% agree that sometimes just traveling around and like jumping around and that was just one of the most fun parts of the game. And yeah, getting to actually interact with the various characters is like, yeah, that's a secondary thing. I think I liked the combat and the world exploration side of things a bit more.
Hmm. Well, it's their first stab at the game. Give them a chance. Like if they do it this well this time, maybe they'll do better next time. It's like Octopath. Like
Yeah,
Octopath was a pretty good game, and then we had some concerns, some criticisms for the game, and then they took all the criticism and they came back with Octopath 2, and apparently they fixed all the issues. So
that's
hey,
what I hear. Uh,
yeah.
the more I hear people talk about Octopath 2, the more I have to like raise it up. Like every time I hear someone talk about Octopath Traveler 2, it skips a game in my backlog. It just raises a notch.
Yeah, Octopath is pretty crazy, man, because it's one of those games that's becoming a kind of oh, I forgot what the word for it is like, but it's kind of um like like Xerox and tissue is becoming some
Oh,
kind of,
like
you know what I'm saying?
a household name.
No, not quite. So like something that defines a genre, right?
Okay.
Defines a category, like a category defining thing, right?
Okay.
It's just top of mind when you think about it. So like Metroidvania, of course, is Metroid and Castlevania, right? But that encompasses an entire category of thing. Soul is the same thing, right? Like Dark Souls, like talk about
Oh yes.
Soul-esque. Yeah.
Hmm.
And then you have things like that. And then Octopath gets brought up all the time. Every time there's like an RPG with HD2D, it's like, oh yeah, it's an Octopath, like whatever. So I think that should speak to how well they did, how well received that game was. It became kind of a category.
Yeah. I mean the way that it kind of sparked an entire visual like the presentation style is
Mhm.
pretty wild.
Yeah, I think it's
Well,
cool.
anyways, guys, I don't have a voicemail for us to play this week, but if you'd like to leave us a voicemail for our next stream, you may do so at 785-337-3805, and we'll play it on the air. And, well, on the air. I mean, technically, we might be on the air if you're watching over Wi Fi, I guess. uh, just certain turns of a phrase no longer make sense anymore because I'm getting old. Well, it is time for a brand new section, everybody, because we are going to start talking to somebody else for a change. Instead of just
Mhm.
Baku and me, we're going to be interviewing a developer, and I'll just welcome them onto the show here. This is Saxon. Hey, Saxon, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. So, Saxon, you are one of the developers of a game called Infinity Knights Cross.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, interesting title. I know. We can talk about that today as well.
Wonderful. I did promise people that that would be one of the first things that I ask you is just to verify how this is meant to be pronounced.
Yeah.
Not to. I'm sure you get that a lot, but well, go ahead.
Oh, I suppose so, yeah.
Go ahead and tell me about your game.
Yeah, sure. So firstly, I just want to say thank you so much for having me on behalf of my brothers and I. Thanks for doing this podcast.
Oh, of
And
course.
secondly, yeah, so making a video game called Infinity Knights Cross, like Cross, but with an X. Um, yeah, it's a co-op JRPG that we're modeling after some of our favorite games that inspired us from when we were kids, like Dark Cloud / Dark Chronicle. Um, it's the Mana series, like especially Secret of Mana and Children of Mana,
Yeah.
and then some games like Final Fantasy 11 that have a bit more intricate like development systems. I played a lot of 11 when I was young, so well, we all did, but I'll just use I for the video.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I played a lot of 11 when I was younger, and it very much influenced like the stuff that we wanted to create. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I also have a trailer set aside here for us to watch real quick, just to get everybody kind of familiar and acquainted with Infinity Knights Cross. So let's go ahead and watch that here real quick, and then we'll talk a little bit more about your game. Oh man,
Yes,
I do
fishing.
love the music. By the way, it does have fishing, so that does make it officially a JRPG, right?
Every good JRPG needs fishing.
Oh man.
Yeah, no, the music's incredible.
Yeah, we had a good time with that. We can talk about that too, actually, in Cuckoo's involvement. Not fishing, no.
And
A little bit of
DDR.
Guitar Hero there, or
Guitar
maybe
Hero.
Poppin'. Yeah. So this is a 3-player co-op action RPG, right?
hmm
Wow.
Up to 3 players.
Up to 3.
We've had some people ask if the game's actually playable solo, and yeah, it completely is. It's just totally a JRPG, but you can just plug in extra controllers and play the game as well.
Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, man.
Oh yeah, that looks
Oh.
good.
Yes.
Yeah,
100%.
it's
That looks so
exciting.
good.
Wrong scene.
Oh, wrong scene. Whoop. Yep, we're bringing you back.
There we
Sorry.
go.
This is
Force
a
of
very short
habits.
interview.
Goodbye, Saxon.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The most
Yeah,
professional.
thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. Take care.
The most professional stream on all of YouTube, everybody. No,
boy.
but yeah, so that's exciting. So during this, you did mention a name that a lot of people might be somewhat familiar with here, called Hiroki Kikuta, right?
Mhm.
Did I hear that correct? That's if I'm not mistaken, that's the developer, or the
Composer.
composer. Thank you, from Secret of Mana.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, among many
Good
others, but
time.
that's like the big one from my childhood.
Yeah, yeah. He's done like a few really notable things that we enjoy, obviously like Kudelka, etc.
Oh,
But
yeah.
Secret of Mana is probably one of the big ones that Kakuta-san really, yeah, is known for, I guess, among like JRPG community. I guess, yeah.
Yeah. Well, gosh, I feel like a kid in a candy shop. I want to ask all the questions at once, and I'm like, I'm gonna go over here, I'm gonna go over there. So I do want to remind everybody in the chat that we will also be taking some of your questions. Baku's gonna help keep an eye on chat for a little bit, and I'm gonna keep an eye on chat a little bit later on. So if you guys have questions that you would like to ask of Saxon here, feel free to throw them out there, and we'll try and pick out some awesome ones. But since it's my show, I got to go first. So you're working with you mentioned also already that you have your brothers who are working with you on this. So
Mm.
that's the 3 of you.
Mhm.
So how has that been to work as a family and as a indie developer? Does that make the process of working on this game, you think, easier or maybe harder? I wonder.
Well, I don't have like a comparison point, I guess, because I've never worked on a game not with them. Like this is our first big title, but it is very much easier than what I imagined. Like we, I don't know how people stereotypically view family dynamics, but we get along super well. We are like,
Oh,
we still play co-op games together, and we've been doing it like our whole lives. So when it comes to making stuff, we're very much always like on the same wavelength. Like I'll have an idea, or Michael will have an idea, or Tyrone, or whoever. And one of us will say something, the other person will be like, "Oh, that's like this and this, and I remember this from when we were like 8. That's so cool." And then it's really good. Makes everything a lot easier.
yeah.
Yeah,
What?
and we can also like, how like siblings can not like tell each other off, but we like know how to communicate, I guess, and keep ideas in check. Yeah, so
Sure.
there's like a lot of strong communication, I guess, that you get with family members that you don't really get.
I
Well,
was
but hold
thinking
on.
that might have been the case, being able to just kind of cut through some of the BS that otherwise you might have to navigate a little more on eggshells, so to speak. If you're like, oh, I think this idea maybe could be a little bit better if but you're like, nah, man, that's bad.
Yeah, there are no eggshells. So.
Do you ever bring mom and dad into conflicts though? Any disagreements? It's like, mom.
Nah.
Kidding. But hold
Our
on.
family's
So
super supportive. The rest of our family, yeah, big family, yeah.
I mean, I have siblings. I mean, we play games together, but we don't go and just like decide to make games as an adult. Like, how did you make that jump to just, oh, we enjoy games together? Yeah,
Yeah,
that's most of us, but making games together, that's a big commitment. How did you
yeah.
get there?
Um, it was always like an intention that we had in the back of our mind, like when we were going through school. I was in school over a decade ago, and I remember like being interested in software. Like we've games are our whole lives. I'm sure everybody here can relate to that. And we play games and we collect games, and then the question just like naturally crops up when you start playing enough, where you're like, what if we could do something like this? Or we kind of just always had that in our mind, and because of that, we were like subconsciously like doing things towards being able to achieve that. So,
Yeah.
like, I went and studied software because it was my intention eventually to like code games, and then one day, like maybe 5 years ago, we were like, wait a second, we could probably just start doing this. Like, we don't need to dilly dally anymore. We could just try, and then we just kept mucking around with things.
How long
Um,
have you guys been
yeah.
developing this game then?
This game, not as long, not
Oh,
five
okay.
years. Yeah, only a few. Uh, but we still like got into the development space just for us, just to like muck around with things like, build demos and prototypes. Nothing that we ever published or anything, just like mucking around in it for our own sake. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. So I guess that it seems like a lot of the decisions, or at least one big decision that I can see here, was kind of shaped by by growing up together, playing games together, and that
Mm.
is the up to 3 player co-op. Are there any other decisions that are kind of based around that experience of that group dynamic of you and your brothers like playing together that shaped some of your decisions in making this game?
Like the choices that we made in terms of like theme or yeah, cooperation or anything like that.
Yeah, themes, game design, just in general. I guess that's kind
Yeah.
of a big question, but
Yeah, actually, there's a lot of different like ways I could go with that. I guess like some of our like this game is very much an ode to like a lot of the big experiences that we had together. Like yeah, like I mentioned before, playing FF11 together, that game, and as soon as I start talking about it, I sound like, for lack of a better term, an addict. It's a very good game. It's extremely immersive, and the people who get involved with it, like it's like another realm. It's really really cool. And playing that together was like very much a memorable like childhood experience that we had. So naturally, when we think about the development of a game, we call like those core memories to life. So maybe non-game related stuff might be like something like Trigun, for instance. I don't know if you've ever
oh
seen the anime Trigun,
oh
that
yeah.
90s anime
Yes.
Trigun. Yeah. So that was like we also watched that growing up together, and it's like I love that show. I love that show so much, about like all the morality it expresses and all of like the character development of Vash, and well, all the characters actually. Um, that was also like a really core integral experience. So we have a lot of feelings that relate to the way that that character progression and story works, that we want to explore in ways that maybe they didn't get a chance to with a 26 episode series that we might be able to over the course of a game, or several installments or whatever. So yeah, I think there are a lot of like core. I don't know if I've deviated from your question, apologies, but I think that there are a lot of like core experiences that we had together as brothers that shaped um, how this game, like how we want this game to be when we release it.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for answering that. And don't worry about going off on different tangents. The way I see my job here is to make you go off on different tangents and just let me listen in, because this is so much fun for me, and I'm
Okay,
I'm
great.
ready
Yeah,
to I'm ready to mentally go wherever your storytelling goes. Um,
cool.
so real quick, I do want to let everybody know that that your game is currently in the process of being fully funded on Kickstarter. Well, it is fully funded on Kickstarter now, correct?
Mhm,
And you have about 10 days left where you're
mhm,
now working on hitting some additional stretch goals. I
mhm.
have links to the Steam page for Infinity Knights Cross down below, as well as the links to the Kickstarter for anybody here who's watching, listening, is getting interested in this. Go check out those links. Wishlist the game on Steam. I hear that that's super useful and very helpful to indie developers. Does that track?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
thumbs up for me.
Yeah, go wishlist it and follow on Kickstarter. Maybe consider setting up a pledge and seeing where this story can go. Um, so one of the things that as I've been doing some of the research around this game, there's a word that gets included in a lot of discussion here, and that word is armaments when it comes to your game.
Yeah,
Could you tell me a little bit about what armaments are in this world and what
yeah,
what they do and how they affect gameplay?
yeah. So firstly, the armaments are like they're like, you know how you go back and you read a book like even Game of Thrones, and they have a lot of like proper nouns for everything. There's like a
Yeah.
lot of area names, and or even like a tactics game. There's like a lot of area names, a lot of weapon names, things like that.
Hmm.
We didn't want to go like overboard with them in Infinity Knights Cross, but one of the ones that meant a lot to us was naming the weapon system that that the Infinity Knights use, and they're called the Armaments. The Armaments are a series of weapons that the king produces, the king of the kingdom in the game, produces for his Infinity Knights. The Infinity Knights are like his personal task force. Given a series of weapons called the Armaments, and they are capable of kind of like separating the physical body and the soul of a person, and the physical body deteriorates away, or a monster, or a person, or whatever.
Okay.
Spoiler alert. And then the king is able to somehow, somehow for the purpose of spoilers, is able to retrieve and harness those souls for his own benefit, or to revive back in the kingdom with this ceremony that he does called the King's Right, and like bring them back to life. Yeah, that's what the armament system is. But then we kind of that's like the lore side of it, but then there's
Hmm.
also the combat side of it, which is like the weapon progression system and how that works, which is like a hybrid. It's a hybrid system between abilities that the characters are granted and weapons that they wield, where you can kind of customize both to develop a unique kind of combat. Where do I go with this? It's like a unique, I want to say unique combat experience, because our goal was to make cooperators,
Hmm.
like people who play together, sorry, feel like what they're doing together is a single experience for them. Like everybody will play the game together, sure, but the way that they develop their strategy and unique builds will be just for them. So
Oh,
we
okay.
kind of took like a customizable approach to the way that abilities and the weapons develop, and hopefully when people play they will develop them in their own unique ways and then use them together as cooperators, and that'll create a unique experience, and that whole thing is branded under the armaments.
So it's like
Yeah.
an entire progression system
Mm.
slash plot device slash maybe I mean it sounds like there's some pretty dark things tied into the back of that. Just I mean
Yeah.
separating souls from bodies sounds pretty wild, but I mean
Mm.
on the other
It's
hand, character customization, I mean that's I mean maybe.
it's difficult talking about it in a light way, because like it's yeah, it thematically I guess it is a bit intense, but at the same time it's like we want to model it like JRPGs used to be. Like sometimes there are some like darker elements, when you guys brought up Octopath before, and there are some storylines in that game that are pretty dark, versus
Oh yeah.
like and versus like maybe Final Fantasy 3, which is pretty lighthearted the whole way through. There's like a good mix of like silly but also intense. But yeah, as soon as you start talking about souls thematically, it's like, oh,
Oh
intense.
yeah.
That's hectic. Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
it's a bit both. There's good parts, and then there's also a bit more like we've gone a bit heavy-handed in some other parts.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love it. I like a good classic like action RPG that has the unexpected like gut punch every once in a while.
Mm.
The classic that always comes to mind whenever I talk about it, because I have to bring it up every single time, is Soul Blazer, and Illusion of Gaia and Terranigma, the whole
Oh,
quintet trilogy that
yeah.
just
Chef's kiss.
Oh, I know. Love it. That just has these moments of like, it feels like, oh, this is wonderful, and there's levity. And then in another scene, a dude is lit on fire and burns to death. And you're like, what the heck did I just see happen? So yeah, I love that in my classic RPGs, and
Mm.
I love to see people remembering those sorts of experiences occurring and bringing them into the throwback RPGs that they're creating.
You know
Mm.
what? I just keep remembering back then when folks would be like, "Oh, cartoons for kids and games are for kids," and then the Japanese is like, "Hold my sake, like let me show you what anime. Oh, let me show you if these are truly for kids." Yeah, I mean, like you said, just random dude just getting lit ablaze and
Mm.
I don't even get me started with all these other anime like Ghost in the Shell. It's like, yeah, that's for kids, right? Yeah, no,
Oh
I
man.
don't think so. um Boy, can we talk a little bit about the story, because I think some folks are pretty interested in
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know, can we talk a little bit about like what's a general story, or the setting like
Yeah.
in the game?
So with that, I'm probably only going to talk about the first 5 minutes, or my brothers will kill me. We're like, no, they won't. But we're very
Yeah.
much like anti-spoiler
Oh yeah.
people. Yeah, very much so.
Okay.
And we want a lot of people to be able to go into this without a huge like they'll play it and they'll like, oh, I know what's going to happen in the first
Mhm.
half an hour, and we're like, cool. And then after that, it's just like nobody has any idea. That's like our vision. But what we can say is that the basis for the story, you always have this like comeuppance story, where there's like a character and they're like, this is like a goal that I want to attain, which I guess, is like the basis for any story that's actually necessary. But instead of approaching this from an angle where Cross is like not an established character in the story, and then he like builds a relationship and finds himself, or other people kind of get to know him, he's already an established part of the kingdom. Instead of working towards like becoming an Infinity Knight, which is like a huge honor in the kingdom, um, he just already is one. You start the game
Hmm.
at his like inauguration ceremony, where the king is like, "You are an Infinity Knight now, Cross, and that comes with all of these responsibilities and this part of the kingdom that you have to look after." And then the game progresses from there. Like some events happen. There are like strange anomalies that are happening throughout the land. A lot of this like weird. It kind of looks like this darkness is emanating from a lot of enemies and land outcrops that kind of looks like the inverse of what the king does when he does the king's right. We use
Hmm.
like similar effects, like the king's light is like light, and then over in the land there's like darkness. Maybe they're related, who knows? And from there, you land in the kingdom, and you're able to, in a way that's very much inspired from Octopath, venture out and talk to other Infinity Knights that start their quest lines. Instead of this being like, there is obviously one major overall story arc, but I don't know if you've had a chance to have a look at all of the characters, but one of the main characters is her name is Fate, and she will be in the kingdom, and you can go up and talk to her and begin her quest line that explores Cross and Fate's relationship. and
Okay.
then go from there. Or you can just bail on that and run out and go and talk to like, one of the other characters or the king himself and progress his quest line. So it very much branches from the moment after the start of the game, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm rambling again.
No,
Anyway.
no, no, you're great. So it sounds kind of like, in a way, when you meet up with these other Infinity Knights, that's probably going to be the point that unlocks additional co-op players. Is that right?
Yeah, so something that was really important to us was that you could, um, like we were considering separating the game into a prologue and a new game, where the prologue you play as the King, Fate, and Cross at the very start, and once you finish that prologue, which wouldn't go for long, then like you would go new game and you would just land in the kingdom, kind of like Gungeon, Enter the Gungeon, where you
Okay.
very much there's a huge focus on just being able to like rip into the game and start playing. We kind of wanted to do something similar where you would just land in the kingdom and from there you would just like you could just go out and do whatever you wanted. So you could like immediately talk to other characters and they would go like, "This is the start of our quest. I'm now part of the party," and then you would explore it from there. And then we would give characters. We will probably give people default characters to use, like maybe Cross and Kazia and Alessia, or
Hmm.
maybe Cross and Fate and the King. We're not sure which ones we want to integrally start with, but so that three people can press a new game together and
Oh, okay.
play the whole time. Yeah.
Very cool. So
Hmm.
that's really cool. Um, I think we're about a half hour in. Baku, did you have any questions that you pulled from the chat that you wanted to throw in here?
Oh yeah. Well, let's start. And this is not going to be in any. This is not going to be in order, but more so in more logical order. Uh, Folks is wondering about the origin of your company name, Time C Studio. Where did you get
Ah,
that?
yeah, so we wanted like a fantasy sounding name, and the Time Sea, interestingly enough, was actually what the name of this game was before
Mhm.
Infinity Nights. I might have to double check that, but we were brainstorming names that we could use, and the original like title for this game that Michael used for it was like the Time Sea, like the Time Sea story, I guess.
Hmm.
But then we ended up changing the name to Infinity Nights. This was before we went public or anything, but still really liked the name, and I like the concept of it a lot, and it may tie into the game? Question mark. Um, but yeah, the origin of the name's Michael's brain, I guess. It is related to the game, so I don't want to go into it more than that. But you can hold me to that question if you like, whoever asked it,
It,
and I will answer it in
it
due
All
time.
right.
it's very special when the developer is here live to spoil the game for you before they release the game. It's a surreal experience. I only found here. Another important question that folks is bringing up is in terms of Steam Deck compatibility. Is that something that you're aiming towards?
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, this
Yeah.
this game would be perfect on Steam Deck, and it's very much our intention to do so. So yes.
Yeah, there's a couple of questions, in regards to gameplay, which is great because that means that they're excited and they want to know more about how it plays. So I'm just gonna fire them off, right?
Yeah, go for
So
it. Yeah.
they're saying that they don't see the physical version on Kickstarter. Will there be a push to bring the game to physical?
That's actually a really complicated question. We want to definitely, and we have every intention to. But we're actually struggling a little bit. What are the right words? We are struggling a little bit right now to get it onto Kickstarter. We're facing like a bunch of difficulties with it. And that's because when we launched the game initially, we only did digital stuff, and our intention was to bring physicals later. But you can't add the way that we have to organize it is a bit tricky. You can't add physicals as an add-on without making a physical tier. So we need to make a physical tier, but then we need to make sure that we don't like screw over any of the backers that are already in there. So we're kind of ironing that one out, but we'll have more info on it in a few days. It's just not something that I can answer immediately because it's something that Michael and Tara and I are discussing like every day. But it is very much our intention. So yeah, stay tuned for that one.
That's
Super
so cool. Okay, another question. And I think this is like a serious question in regards to how the game plays between 1 player, 2 player, 3 player, right?
Yes.
So,
Okay.
and I think that's probably one of the things that as I'm reading about your game for the first time, um, I had a just giant question mark on my head. It's like, oh, it's a 3 player co-op. Like, do I need to have 3 player? And you've already answered earlier that no, that's not the case. You can very much play it as a first person. What are some of the challenges of like balancing encounters that supports like the 1 play to 3 play? Because the AI can be, I think there's this game that Derek, we remember we played, I forgot which one it was, but it was like a
Trinity Trigger.
Trinity Trigger, yeah, and the
Ooh, yeah.
AIs are like not great, and they become very detrimental. But I think they had a similar idea. It's like, yeah, we want to make a game that's like co-op, and I'm sure like the human co-op would do a little better than them. But I just remember playing that game, and like the AI just like dies like nonstop because they don't know how to dodge correctly, and I'm just like, okay, so this is turning into not only a 1 player but a 1 character situation. What is that like for the game right now for Infinity Nights?
Yeah, balancing is really difficult. It's really difficult. We've gone and like we're experimenting with a bunch of different ideas. Some of them were like that we could tweak certain characters to have certain AI strength. So someone like maybe the king, who is in charge of a task force of these Infinity Knights, would just be like super OP'd. So if you put him in your party, he would be really strong, vice versa. But then we realized that that's a bit unfair because some people might just want to play with the king but might not want the game like handed to them. So then we thought about being able to alter the strength of the CPUs. And then we thought about doing something similar to like FF12's Gambit system where you could kind of control the way that they operated. And it's not something that we've come to a conclusion on yet, but balancing is very much in our minds, and it's something that we want to get right because obviously like no one will ever be as good as a cooperator when you are playing with someone else. Like people are probably better controllers for now than AI are. But yeah, it is something that we do have in mind. Balancing's really difficult, and it's not something that we've gotten right yet, and that we're still developing. But we very much like focus on it a lot because, like you said, yeah, it can just ruin a game when your allies are just doing really, really silly stuff. I'm drawing blanks right now, but I'm sure there are a couple of games that I've played where you question even something like this is a bizarre example, but like 007 Nightfire was a game that we used to play. It was like you could actually play it co-op back on, we played it on PS2, and some of the AIs in that game were really silly. They would just like run into walls and yeah, really silly. And I don't know how some of that stuff.
Or like Persona 3, where like Mitsuru just nonstop Marin Karin everyone, even though like it makes no sense. Like, can you please stop? And was it like you couldn't control them?
The enemies?
Just like, can you please stop it?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know,
So
I was thinking.
Oh, you go.
You should could you include a little brother mode that allows them to like move the character around, but then like it just auto attacks and is like good. And
there is very much like we've had a few people be like, oh, I really want to play this game with like my kid or my kids or my younger brother, but he's very little. So there is very much going to be like a big brother, little brother mode. But
I love it.
It's inspired by a few things actually, because I play games with my partner sometimes, and she's quite new to games, but there are some games that are really cool that she really wants to play, but are like exceedingly difficult, right? Octopath is a great example.
Mm-hmm.
I love JRPGs, playing them my whole life, so not much of a problem for me to play a game like Octopath. But I put Octopath in her hands, and it's like no, like I don't. We've never really played a JRPG, love the story of it, but it's really difficult. And Octopath doesn't have like a mode selector.
There's no
And if
bumpers on that one.
Yeah.
yeah, if you wanted to play with your like younger sibling or something, we don't want them to go into the game and just get, for lack of a better term, massacred. Like, I definitely don't want that.
Yeah.
But on that note as well, I also wanted to say that we are going to make stories that are very much age appropriate, so that if you don't want to go through like a hectic dark story with your younger brother who shouldn't be seeing stuff like that, there are some characters that have storylines that are lighthearted like the whole way through, and those are the ones that will very much point out and be like, pick those ones to play.
I love it.
Yeah. It is a consideration that we have in mind.
That is so cool. And before we get back to the story stuff, just one more question about like game capability sort of item. Like, are we looking at some point adding like network co-op capability? Because I'd love to play this game with Derek, but Derek lives like pretty far from me.
And I'm also really bad, so it's good to have the little brother controller. So
yeah. Yeah, you can turn that on and then play with Derek, and he can just play with Baku, and he can carry through. Yeah, so originally it was like a social goal that we had, where if we had like 1,000 shares on our Twitter and Facebook main posts, then we would include online and LAN co-op. And that very much looks like it's going to get fulfilled. I think it's at about like 800 out of 1,000 right now, but it's kind of our intention anyway, because co-op is really cool, and we love it, but we do acknowledge that these days a lot of more people, it's easier and more accessible for them to play online, especially with their friends, especially because like we played couch co-op when we were young, because we were all like young and kids and didn't have like online capabilities, and now we're all grown up and we all like live apart, or you know, we all like, you know, I still want to play games with my mates, and we all live in different houses, and we're not going to like catch up, or we will catch up to play this game together actually, but online is definitely definitely on the cards. Online and LAN, they're both two things that we want to do, because we understand that people also like playing LAN. Michael and Tyron and I play LAN co-op as much as we can, because it's very good. So,
gotcha. Well, that's good to hear, because man, that's gonna change things, like especially after the pandemic. You know, we've gotten accustomed to doing more online co-op games. That's, you know, beyond your typical suspect, right? So even things like this, like I think people are a lot more open to just hang out like online, even if I can see them. Like if I choose to drive out and see them for like in like 10, 15 minutes, like no, I'm just gonna stay home and we'll just play this game. We can still hang out. So that's pretty cool. Now back to the questions and of story, and this is not story per se, but it's tied to it. How are you handling character progression? Right? Is that like a huge part of the game? And for example, like how would the character like improve over the course of the game? Is that something you can share with us?
Yeah, I thought you meant literal like the story beats, and I was like, I can break down the story. Yeah, sorry.
Feel free to take
like
it however you like to answer this question.
So character progression, there is absolutely going to be like traditional JRPG leveling, and pause that I know that a lot of people, some people these days like shake their heads because it reminds them about like some of like the previous grindy aspects that used to exist in previous games, and it's very much a combination of leveling but also customization, and both things are pretty integral. I'd say the customization more so, but we have to include the leveling because it's like so classic and we need that for us, so that's why we're going to include it. But in the same way that a game like what's a good example? Something like RuneScape might be a good example, where your own combat level is maybe like 100, and then you verse bosses that are like level 700, 800, but you can still defeat them. So like level has a meaning, but it's not as like if you're fighting a level 62 enemy and you're a level 60, you won't win. It's not like that at all. So there's like traditional leveling where you do activities, whether they're quests, fighting monsters directly, completing dungeons, like doing the hunts, all the systems that we have in place for the game, that will progress your character. But there's also kind of like an allocation system that we compare to a system that existed in Final Fantasy XI called Trial of the Magians, where you're given a task, and as you fulfill that task, your weapons and abilities are augmented, right? So, for example, you might go up to the trial magistrate and say, like, here are all the options that you can have for uh, your lightning sword or your sword, sorry. And you go, like, yeah, I want to improve its like lightning efficiency and the rate that it crits. But then for my scythe, I want to make sure that when I attack, it occasionally hits twice or thrice, like damage pours out or whatever. And then the trial magistrate goes, all right, to do that, you have to go and complete this dungeon or go and kill this boss twice or so on. And then that way you have like a goal-oriented way of leveling as well as a traditional like experience way of leveling. And the balance between both of those will kind of make it feel like you're always progressing, that you never really feel like you're stalling or that you're at a point where you're like, oh, what do I do? Yeah, there's a bit of direction for that. If that answers your question.
Cool.
No, it does, I think. Well, I mean, I don't know. Chat, you can tell me if it answers your question.
That sounds really
if
cool.
you feel like whoever asked the question, if you feel like I didn't answer properly or there's like a bit that you want to know more about, I'm always open to questions. So feel free to just throw them at me, whether it's like on Twitter or Discord or whatever. Always happy to.
Gotcha. Yeah, thank you so
Yeah.
much for that. But a bit of a follow-up on that one then. We talked about the game mechanics wise of improving a character in terms of like capabilities and whatnot. This being like a 1 to up to 3 player game, and one of the characters cross. Like how do you split like the character progression as far as like maybe like character progression in terms of like just like story wise, or like if we think about this in terms of like an anime, right? Like obviously characters grow in strength, but they also grow in character, right? So in terms of like the
Yes.
character growth, is that solely just based on cross, and then we just got 2 other people who are there like, oh yeah, I'm your fellow Infinity Knights, or all 3 different characters have sort of like different personality and growth?
They definitely all have different personality and growth. So story, this is like a story-based question as to what I understand.
Yeah.
So I I love writing and I love stories. My partner is just a literature goddess. She's incredible. We often like read a lot and break down a lot of stories, and it's something that's like really important to me. And my brothers. I don't want to talk on behalf of them, although I kind of can. But stories like really important to us, and something that's really integral in story is character. A lot of people uh, don't realize, but every single character that's presented in every single story has a function, and their function is essentially to let the character express like a certain value or like moral need or of their own or the main characters. They're very much an integral function of the story, and any character that's included in a story that doesn't do that is just somebody that you should just cut out. Everything that we've done character wise is extremely intentional in the growth and development of Cross, but also his allies. Like Octopath, very much an inspiration. We don't directly say it like on the Kickstarter or anything, but Octopath was a huge inspiration for that because they have this branching storyline where characters are exploring some point, and sometimes the other characters get mixed in, sometimes they don't. But ours is very much like they do all have relation and they have very meaningful relationships between each other. It's very much not like, oh, Cross is the main character and he should always be in your party. It's people like Fate and the King and Alessia, they very much have like stories that we really feel like we need to tell and want to tell, so we've developed them that way. So it won't be like, oh, like Cross is the main character, the game is named after him and he's integral to the plot, but also you will get very meaningful like perspectives that are oriented on those characters that aren't Cross, without feeling like he has to be involved, if that makes sense.
No, that does. And thank you for answering in a way that was both complete but also not spoiling. That's
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah.
What an artful way of answering this question.
It's difficult. Yeah, it's difficult. We can do like a massive in-depth spoiler stream sometime. Maybe like a week after the game or something. We can just like hone in on how all these stories were developed. But until then, we're very much like keeping a lot
Oh,
about
absolutely.
specifically about story close to us. Just some mechanics we're happy to talk about, but then the like really fundamental story stuff. It's difficult. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
We'll
difficult.
save it
No,
for the
that makes
director
sense.
commentary.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Here's another question. Do you see this game becoming a series?
Yeah, it is a series. Yeah.
Oh,
In my head, sorry, it's not full. Maybe that may have been misleading. Sorry. Yeah, it very much is a series. So we've had this vision that, and we're not doing it to like try and be different or anything like that. That's not the case. But because people have done this before, but we very much have this vision. Actually, it kind of ties back into the what we were just talking about characters, where instead of having like a chapterized, sorry, it will be chapterized. Instead of having a series where you have, you know, Infinity Knights 1, Infinity Knights 2, Infinity Knights 3. Instead, it's a compilation of stories about the Infinity Knights that are centered around specific characters. So this game is called Infinity Knights Cross, but the next entry in the series might be called Infinity Knights Fate, and then like after Fate, the character. And there were some books that we wanted to write that filled interim gaps about characters that we didn't want to create like a full game about, but still wanted to explore a specific part of their story. You know, like Velia or the Skeleton Lord. You know, we wanted to write like novellas that would also be Infinity Knights Velia or Infinity Knights, so on.
Oh,
So
wow,
in
okay.
terms of it being a series, very much our intention. In terms of actually being able to do that as an indie developer,
That's up in
question
the air
mark.
still, huh?
Man, but that's super cool. I love the ambition too. You know, it's like it's a bit like a Five Nights at Freddy kind of situation. Obviously, it's not a direct comparison, but hey, they started off a game. You know, they start making sequels. They had these like little novels that kind of fill in the
Yeah,
gaps and
super
explain
cool.
some things. That's really cool.
That's super
Yeah.
cool. So,
okay. Yeah.
oh,
Mhm.
well, I was gonna say. So I guess that explains the cross. This, I guess the cross is the subtitle of this one. Then Infinity Knights,
Yes.
and then Cross, and Cross is the name of the primary protagonist. Is that the
Yeah.
the
He is the protagonist. The game's named
Okay.
after him. But there are Fate and Cross are the main protagonists. And arguably the King, but
Yeah,
it's
I
tough
gotcha.
to
I
say more. Yeah.
Man, yeah, so that's super cool. You know what I hope for you in the future is I hope to see people asking online, which game do I start? Because
Oh yeah.
I guarantee you at some point once you got like 3 4 games out, they're like, oh, I want to get into the series. Which game should I start with? I'm so confused because they're not numbered. I don't know what to do. That would be a cool problem to
Kind of like
have.
that.
Okay. Just another question, and I think this one is about the last one that we've got. This is not related to the game per se, but what are some of your favorite games that you played recently, and have you adapted anything from those into your own game?
Definitely, yeah. So I won't bring it up again. I will one more time. One of the most recent games I actually played was Octopath 2. So
Oh, okay.
there's like a huge inspiration there. Prior to playing Octopath 2, Octopath 1 played a lot into it. We talk a lot about each weapon has like a type of damage, like slashing, piercing, blunt, that and the elements that you can cycle through on your weapons um, also play like an elemental role. And the idea is while you're fighting in combat, you're like switching between what weapons are effective, what elements are effective to deal damage to their weaknesses. And it's very similar, well, similar in concept, not in execution, to Octopath's battle system, because I'm not sure if you remember, but like you're in battle, they have like the tiny weakness icons. So a lot of Octopath influence in that specific area.
Mm.
Mhm,
I see it now
Recently,
that
I
you mentioned it.
also,
Yeah.
yeah,
mhm.
you can see it like in the UI. It's small, but you can see it in the UI. They have like their name, and underneath it'll say like none or lightning or etc.
Yeah.
For what they have equipped. I also recently was playing a lot of Diablo 3 with Michael. I'm a sucker for Diablo. Hey, it's a really good game. Like the way that whole world generates, and that you just like go and you're just like thrashing different builds and cooldowns and abilities, and that dynamism of the gameplay is really fun. This game is not like a horde slayer. You don't just like carve down leagues of enemies like you do in Diablo. It's a bit more um like enemy, like singular, and not singular enemy, but the fights are a little bit tougher and longer than simply holding down R2 or something like
Hmm.
that, like you would do in Diablo. But yeah, played Diablo recently. That very much like that influence leaks into it. A lot of the games that we play definitely do, because every game that you play kind of like restructures your view on the games that you like and that you appreciate, and games that we don't like, we're like, nah, like ignore like these things, never put them in a game. Whereas good stuff, like even good games that we play, um, maybe we see a few things from it that we're like, actually, that's a really cool idea. Maybe we could expand on that in a way that they didn't, or yada yada. Yeah, I'd say big ones off the top of my head. Yeah, Octopath 2, Diablo, cool games, influence definitely for sure.
Awesome. All right. Well, that pretty much concludes the questions that I've received from chat. I mean, some of them I omitted because I felt like that was already addressed, through
Hmm.
our conversation. Is there anything else, Derek, from you that you wanted to, while Saxon's still here?
Yeah. I had, I guess, kind of one more question. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about? Any questions that I should have asked you that I didn't ask you already? Is there anything on the tip of your tongue that you just really wanted to get out? And
This question
what's that?
This question's a difficult one actually,
Isn't it?
because it's very broad that I'm like, oh wait, no. I think you mentioned two very quick things actually. I think you mentioned at the start that the game's called Infinite Nights Cross. Why does it
Yes.
have an X? We answered this a little bit in an interview that we did previously, but I think it got a bit buried before everybody kind of found out about the game. Um, but we very much were like leaning into the fantasy trope of having strangely spelled names, and
Mm.
and uh, we kind of there's actually a lot like symbolically going on about the X, like the way that the land is structured, that like X marks the spot, and that cross is really integral to the story.
Okay.
We think X's are cool. I have an X in my name, so that's fun.
Yeah.
We respected a lot of old games that had X's in their titles, like Mega Man X is one of my favorite series around. Like the Organization 13 members all
Oh
have
yeah, yeah.
X's in their name. But one of the key points that I'd like people to think about in terms of the X is that his name in relation to all the other names is super foreign and strange, and everything that we do in the game is really intentional. So there's got to be a reason why we were like, you know what, Cross's name has to be different. And people go, well, why is it different? We go, maybe Cross is different. Maybe there's a reason why he has this strange, not like for the realm, like his name is really weird. It's not really, it doesn't really follow the clementure of the realm. So
So
things to
I'm
things to
taking
think
it.
about.
I'm taking this to mean that he is an Organization 13 member, and his name is actually just Ross.
Indeed.
I'm
it.
taking it as he has been hit by a truck in Japan at some point, and he has
Got
then
isekai'd.
he got isekai'd.
Well, we'll see. You don't have to.
We will
You don't have to.
see.
You do not have to confirm nor deny.
Yep.
Mm.
Okay. And the other thing that you wanted to bring up, you said there
Oh,
were two.
yeah. Probably not something we can go into, but a large part of the game is actually the town building diorama-esque element. The game's like split into two. There's like the outside adventuring the kingdom, and then there's inside the kingdom. And a lot of people jump straight onto the combat, and and the story. And we did the same thing here, and I forgot to explore that other part because some people have been interested. They're like, how does it
Ooh.
relate to Dark Cloud? How does it relate
Mhm.
to diorama? And it's
Oh my
actually a
gosh,
big part of the game. But
this has me so excited. I'm
We're
a huge
intrigued.
fan of
Yeah.
Dark Cloud's world building or town building, and
Mhm.
world resurrection stuff. So this you've got my attention.
yeah,
Continue.
just briefly because I know that we're pretty much out of time. But
Whatever. We have no
um,
boss. We're good.
the the kingdom when you start, I talked kind of earlier at the start of this interview about when you land in the kingdom, you're the inauguration ceremony happens and the king goes like, you're Infinity Knight now, you have your own sector. So part of this game, you are given part of the kingdom to look after. That's part of the Infinity Knight's responsibility. So Cross is given a sector of the kingdom to essentially develop and grow, and that was very much inspired by our intense love for Dark Cloud and Dark Chronicle or Dark Cloud 2, depending on where you're from,
Yes.
where you venture out from the kingdom and you collect supplies. It's not the same as the Atlamelia that you uncover in Dark Cloud, but you very much like recover materials and resources to then take back to your town after you're defeated or after you run out of adventuring. You always return back to the town, I guess kind of like Gungeon or a roguelike or something like that. And then while you're in the town, you can use those materials to develop the town more. So, for an example, you might like create more opportunities to go to like other places in the world, like good teleports or like upgrading the smithy or so on. Like you build a lot of artifacts around the town that improve it for the way that you want to play and what works out. It's kind of like a hybrid between like Dark Cloud's diorama and maybe something like Stardew, but I use that comparison weekly. It's
Sure.
just like some
Yeah.
similar elements about like procurement of materials, building stuff that will be useful, putting it in the kingdom, so on. Yeah,
I
and
love
it's a
it.
really integral part of the game, and I can't believe I didn't talk about it for an hour. But that's also there as well. So
I am so
That
glad
is.
Derek asked that question because boy, you've turned the hype level from up tier
I
to
know.
up here. You've just boosted the hype level that much more. And the gameplay is amazing. The aesthetics, the music, everything has been great. And the fact that you can
Yeah.
do like co-op, that's all great, but that's all like you said, it's like a lot to do with like the battle and the story. But then you're like, oh, by the way, there's like town building or like building up the
I
kingdom.
know.
It's like,
I
do
love that.
tell us more.
Oh man.
That
yeah,
is so cool.
yeah. Just like one of the first big RPGs we ever played was Dark Cloud, and for anyone who hasn't played that game, go and play Dark Cloud. It is definitely like a cult
Oh yeah.
classic, I guess. But
Some of
more and
level
more, it's
five's
like
finest.
emerging. Oh
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah, like everyone level. Oh, I have so much respect for level 5, so I'm not going to get started. I love them. But yeah, go on. Dark Cloud's really cool. Bit strange, but it's so fantastical, and you start playing it, and you're so immediately immersed. There's like little dialogue, but a very unique soundtrack and cool places, and it's just a very very different game than any other real game that I've played. And it was also one of the first, so it had so much impact
Oh
when I
yeah.
was a kid. So naturally, that has just like made its way into the Infinity Knights realm. I think someone in the comments mentioned that they saw fishing and mining We have we really like mini games and RPGs.
Yes.
So fishing obviously makes its way in there, but we also
course.
have like mining and wood cutting and different ways to procure items while you're out on the field that revolve around mini games that we think are like fun and not intense, because you have to have both in a game. I feel like every good game has like a plethora of mini games. And through that and the procurement of materials out in the field, yeah, you can go back into your town and create um, structures that like progress your own development and story and make things easier. Like I mentioned, like teleports. I kind of envision the kingdom being somewhat like Sandoria from Final Fantasy 11, where you you throughout the land you like touch all the outposts and the home crystals, and then you're able to like teleport between them. And we think that's really cool, but we want to also include part of that like town building element into it, where you can make these crystals and you can position them where you want, so that you have access to be able to like teleport around,
Oh, that's
not in the
cool.
lands, just specifically in the kingdom you can place
I
them.
love it.
And then that way you can kind of build your gameplay loop to what you prefer doing more, if that makes sense. So if you like fishing, then you teleport out, you go and you fish a bunch, you have the fish, you take them back to your kingdom, you either prepare them to use them out in the field, or you put them in like your water structures that you've built to then like propagate them, etc. As just like one of the many examples. Yeah, should be cool.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
so
no,
cool.
super cool. No
Yeah.
big deal.
No big deal.
No big deal. Yeah, it's just town building. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I know that we've already taken more of your time than we told you that we would, so I thank you so much for being on here and then telling us all about your incredible upcoming game. Everybody, again, just make sure you check the video description for links to their Kickstarter campaign that is currently ongoing. They've already met their initial goal, but they have other stretch goals that they're working on. And go wishlist it on Steam so that when it comes out, you can play it and get it and give these people more money, because they need to develop they need it to develop sequels. Okay, go give them
Yes.
money.
It's only 10 more days for the Kickstarter. I do want
Yeah,
to remind
time is
folks,
running out
like,
on that for real.
yeah,
I don't know.
lest you think like this Kickstarter had just started. It's like, no, there are only 10 more days. So don't like sit on it. Be like, oh yeah, I'll do it later. I'll do it next week or the week after, and then you go back and the Kickstarter's already done. No, there are only 10 more days. So get there.
And it
Jump on
looks
it.
like in the chat we've already got a couple more supporters here already, so thank you everybody
Heck
in the chat.
yeah.
You two are very kind, and thank you so much for allowing me this space to talk about Infinity Nights and for your interest and everything. I really appreciate all the time and consideration that you've given me. So thank you immensely. Thank you heaps.
Oh, of
Thank
course.
you.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you later on.
Take care.
Take care.
All right.
Ooh,
So
that was fun.
a successful interview, our very first. Could you tell?
well, but we can't let our guard down, because
yeah.
Saxon was super easy
yeah.
to speak with. We could have some tough customers, but thank you again. That was super cool. And if you
So
guys
fun.
like to see more of these interviews, definitely let us know who you may want us to try to get in touch with. And I don't know, maybe we can do more of this. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let us know in
definitely.
the comments how you guys feel about these interview segments.
All right. Well, I think that I'll go ahead and switch us on to our next section, because despite the interview, other things did continue to occur in the world, and we have some upcoming games that we should probably start talking about that are coming out this week. I'll go ahead and kick us off here with this one that I think, well, maybe you should start off with this one, because you were pretty excited about this one, weren't you, Baku?
Oh yes, I absolutely was. So we only have one game that's up in release that we want to talk about, and yes, I know that Daybreak had recently come out, but I feel like for anyone who cared about Daybreak, you already know, and anyone who doesn't know, well, it's whatever. But hey, we're gonna focus on actual games that are actually coming up and not ones that we missed from like a 2 weeks hiatus. And the game that we want to talk about is a little gem called Riviera: The Promised Land. Now, this is the HD remastered of the 2002 game from Department Heaven, with this by the same name. They recently released it in Japan, and it was called like the remaster. But for whatever reason, they didn't use that moniker for the West. Is simply called Riviera: The Promised Land, and it's coming to Steam. We should take a look at that trailer.
All right, I'll pull it right on up here. Let's see. It has occurred to me that I might still have to fix something in the trailer mode.
Oh, you might want to.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and fix that.
Yes. Hi, Saxon. Still there.
There we go.
Why are there
There we-
demons at Heaven's Gate?
I believe in my purpose and will move ahead.
I'm sorry, but I'm going to set it free.
Yeah, the sound is kind of it's weird. They have this like weird like echoey thing going on, but
Oh.
yeah. I was watching the trailers, and this is already the best trailer they have.
Oh, it's the game doing that, or the trailer.
It's the trailer doing that, yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like, I had an issue with the audio.
That magic seal.
Okay.
I'll show you the power of magic.
They were shouting their voice acting down a
I'll show you
Down a
how to
sewer
work
drain.
carefully. Let's go back. I'm your familiar. I go where you go.
Aren't you being a bit hasty? Just stay out of my way. Leda, Ein, hurry towards Riviera. In the name of the gods, protect this world.
Really?
So have you played Riviera before?
Oh, I did back in like
Riviera?
back in the Game Boy Advance days. Oh, did I play it on Game Boy Advance? What did I do? I know this is a Game Boy Advance game, but I feel like I didn't play it on Game Boy Advance. I might have played it on my DS.
You probably played it on an emulator, you degenerate.
Or that. I don't know.
No, I'm just kidding.
Or that. That
Possible.
is very possible. I simply can't remember. But I just remember this game being a really fun RPG.
I got you. Chat says it was also on PSP, so maybe that was it.
Oh, you know what? No, it was on the PSP. It was on the PSP. Because I was like, I don't own a Game Boy Advance. Well, okay. I technically don't own a Game Boy Advance. So I was like, when did I play this game? PSP makes sense. I've had like 3 PSPs, so that makes a lot more sense. Yeah, you can switch between Japanese and English in
Okay.
this game. It's really cool. They've got a bunch of like, quality of life stuff, like 5 times battle speed and all kinds of different modes to make the gameplay a little bit more smooth. So I think it's going to be pretty good. I've got it on my wish list already. I am definitely picking that up just because I have this like fondness for Department Heaven games, including what's that other one that recently came out and is following that trend. They're like releasing Department Heaven games on Steam slowly. What was it?
Sounds familiar.
Yggdra.
Yggdra Union.
Yggdra
Yeah.
Union, yeah. So I'm looking forward to them releasing more Department Heaven games on Steam. I think it's a great collection to be added. Some of those I don't know how they're going to implement because I feel like it requires some kind of touchscreen capability, but we'll see. We'll see. But anyways, this game is coming out in 2 days. On
nice.
July 16th. Yeah. So I am probably going to day one this one just to play off stream. I don't imagine playing this on stream, but yeah, I will be playing that in my free time probably.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. And with that, we have some other announcements to start going down. There's a game that we talked about. There's this action RPG. We talked about it like sometime last year. And the trailer looks really familiar. Well, this is a spiritual successor to Save Me, Mr. Tako. and it is now live on Kickstarter, and we have a trailer for it as well. Do you want to take a look at that real quick?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's see. There's the button. So it's Save Me, Mr. Tako, which in this case, Tako is spelt with a K, so I think that means Mr. Octopus?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you'll see octopus is a heavy part of the game. I think human and octopuses like live. Oh, there we go. Here's some after the Shadow War. I think they're gonna give you some lore here.
Ooh.
Octopuses, octopuses, not octopi.
Oh, you're right. It did say
Apparently, they're both acceptable. Yeah, so humans and octopuses coexist in this world, and octopuses are sort of like elemental spirits kind of thing. They're not like, the octopuses that you would imagine from the ocean only.
Yeah.
Magical octopuses. Look at those.
Dude, I love the art on this. It's
Yes.
Very Game Boy Advance-y.
That's why I wanted to bring this up, because I felt like this is so well done. It really captures the art and the feeling
The palette,
of that
too.
era. Yeah.
Definitely there.
And I think this game just is really well done. I had to talk about it. And the name is kind of weird, I guess, because I don't know, super moon-rooney, like Tako no Himitsu, like it's like what? It just means the secret of the octopus. I don't know if that makes sense to folks at all.
Makes sense to me. That looks cool, man.
Yeah, it's super cool.
All right. So this one is planned for sometime in 2026, so it's a ways away yet, and it is currently in Kickstarter. So you'll want to go check that out. They have about 25 more days on their Kickstarter, so go check it out. And when you're there, check out Infinity Nights Cross.
Yes, do both at the same time.
2-for-1 special. There you go.
Heck yeah. Next up, we've got something that I'm actually really excited for, and I wish that they had a video. I contemplated on whether or not to talk about this game tonight. I was like, should I wait until they have a YouTube video? But I can't, because I'm just so excited for this. So Derek, are you able to open the website?
I can. I need to go open the website real quick.
Okay.
And then
Well,
I'll share
while
it.
you fumble around with that one, let me talk a little bit about this game and why I'm excited for this. So, this is from the developers of the hit indie game Valhalla. Valhalla, for anyone who may not know, is from Skeban Games, and they made a game called Valhalla that is basically a steampunk sort of world where you play as a bartender, and then different guests would come in and they talk about their days and their world. You mix drinks with them, and that game has since inspired many games that are similar to that, like cafe, like I think it's like Coffee Talk is a similar game by a different developer. So but Valhalla is definitely like one of the, if not the original for that genre of games that has since sparked many inspired games that are also great in their own right. This is their new game, and it's not another like visual novel-esque kind of game, but rather it is a game that's quote unquote called active time action game that takes heavy inspiration from Parasite Eve. And I'm not just saying that because they actually say that in their website, that much of the inspiration is from Parasite Eve, which got me very excited. It's one of those things where I'm like, well, if Square Enix won't give us a good Parasite Eve, I guess we'll just do it ourselves. And you're gonna see a lot of that from like the indie scene. And yeah, there's a video, but it's like an ambiance video where the character literally just stands there for a while. So yeah, that wasn't the kind of video that I was hoping for. Yeah.
I mean, it's still pretty cool though. I like the look of the low poly, low resolution.
Oh yeah, I think that's sort of like the next thing that a lot of indie developers would do. Like it just basically, captures the feeling of the times as generations of people grow up. And before it was like the Game Boy kind of aesthetics, then like the 8-bit and the 16-bit, and now we're finally getting to low res PS1 graphics as sort of like the new thing that people are trying to emulate, which I don't hate. I think it's pretty cool. But if we can scroll back up, I think the one thing that I want to show is like that video. It's hard to see, and I don't know if you can zoom in a little bit. Yeah, but if you see, like, that's the battle system. So for anyone who has never played Parasite Eve before, basically you run around as like enemies attack you, and it's real time in that sense. But once you click like in the menu, and then all of a sudden like people freezes, and then you get to select whatever you want to do to whom,
It's kind of like
and then
VATS.
executes. Yeah, so I mean, it's a
VATS in
very
Fallout, kind of.
yeah, it's a very like early adaptation of like playing with like what happens if you have like action in a sense that you have to like actively get away from enemies and try to avoid some attacks in area. There's no dodges, there's no rolling away, so it's like pretty rudimentary. You literally just run around. But at the same time, you do have some effect because you can move your character in a real time as the enemy try to attack you. And then when you try to attack them, it becomes like a menu situation. You can use item, there's like a active time bar, and then you can select whatever you want to do to the enemy, and then there's like an AoE. So yeah, I just wish that they had done a little bit more with the Parasite Eve series that didn't like kind of go awry. But I digress. It was a really fun system back then, and I think that it's gonna do well now. So this is called sorry, I didn't this entire time I did not say what this game is called because it's kind of weird. It's called Point 45 Parabellum Bloodhound. It's quite a name.
All right.
I would imagine it's like 45 caliber. Like I think that's what they mean by point 45, but whatever. I have no idea how it's actually pronounced, so I'm just gonna read it kind of verbatim, which is point 45 Parabellum Bloodhound.
Awesome. That's pretty
Yeah.
neat.
Yeah, it's a really cool game. I just wish they had like a gameplay trailer or some kind of like explanation trailer. But you know what? These guys, they're not like new to the scene. They know what they're doing. So I guess when
Yeah.
they have something a little bit more concrete, we may revisit this game. So there's no release time frame. It is extremely new. And they will have more detail coming soon, and we'll talk about that later in an upcoming industry event. But yeah, this is being developed for PC. So if you want to play that, that's going to be a PC kind of game.
Well, that's perfect because we were just so this is like a PlayStation 1 kind of inspired game.
Yeah.
We do have a trailer for another PlayStation 1
Mhm.
style of RPG or game that's being developed here called Skydrops. And I'll go ahead and take a look at this here too because this looks
Yeah. Now this has a trailer, and I was kind of hoping that they would have something like this.
yeah, different game. This is still
Different.
Skydrops.
Skydrops.
Spy drops. Spy drops.
Spy drop.
It's kind of Metal Gear
Skydrop.
Solid-ish. It's looking like.
Yes.
And I think that looks pretty rad. All right. Very, very short trailer. Teaser, even, if you will. But, I'm pretty excited about that. That looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I forgot to look into. I don't think they have a release time frame just yet. It's
not yet,
it's
but it
still
is
in
being
fairly
developed for
early
PC.
development. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
I forgot to say that part. Sorry.
Yeah, no. Yeah. So, oof, man, that's why I was saying. Like, I feel like the trend right now is to bring that sort of low polygon aesthetics to modern games, and it's not just like remastering things. And I mean, they're two concurrent trends, right? That I think is again just because of who has the money and who's playing the game. So it was millennial. Now they're starting to cater to maybe like some older Gen Z, right? Or and they grew up playing some of these PlayStation 1 games. So they're like two concurrent trend. One is remake, remaster of the games that were there. So like for example, you know, like remastering
Oh, like
what's that called? Saga Frontier, for example. Like let's just
Yeah.
use that as an example because that's a PS1 game, right? It's like, okay,
Saga
so
Frontier,
who
Star
played that
Ocean.
game? Yeah, stuff like that, right? So
Yeah.
there's that. There's the remake, remaster of actual game that came out during the PlayStation era, and then there's the recreation of the PlayStation 1 game, but as a new title. So it's not a remake, not a remaster. It's a brand new game, but it uses that aesthetics. And I think we're going to expect to see more of that coming up. Like these two are definitely like the hot trend for games coming out now, as we can see. I'm excited for it. I like those games. If they can do it well and it's not just like a mere, using the style for the sake of it and they do something cool with it, I'm all for it. Okay, so we've got these next game. Oh, this next one.
I know. I was gonna say the stars really aligned for this one. I feel like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't even do this on purpose. You know that?
Did you
Like
not?
I was just jotting down things like I was in a hurry because the
Oh.
interview took
Yeah.
took some time to prepare. So the next one, it's coming from Idea Factory, and they are releasing the third game to the Death End Request series called Death End Request Code Z. And we can take a look at that trailer really quick as well.
Alrighty.
It's going to be a really pretty quick one too, I think.
Oh yeah, it's 17 plus, folks. If you're young kids in the audience, avert your eyes.
Yeah, I don't think they have anything crazy here. Definitely
Let's hope not.
some minor horror, maybe. Yeah, just little bit of that. Yeah, just no big deal. Yeah, it's just
So in this game,
Yeah.
people die
a lot,
in
lot of death.
gruesome ways.
Extremely gruesome deaths. So Deathman Requests, at least the first game, was one that I heavily advertised to folks because I felt like the first game was just spectacular in the writing and the execution.
Nah.
Didn't like the battle system too much. Like that was like the weakest part. But everything else, like the way that they get you to see all the gruesome deaths, the the way that they really draw it out and really describe the excruciating circumstances are intriguing.
Yeah,
Now
yeah,
you
they really
wouldn't be
nailed it in the execution.
Oh yeah. Well, you wouldn't be surprised to find out that the person who was behind all that writing was the script was from Corpse Party, because guess
Yeah.
what? Corpse Party also do that really well. It's
Yeah.
not like, oh yeah, you got caught by the ghost and you drowned, bad end. Like, no, it's not like that. He would write out the seconds leading up to the death and just like all the thoughts and emotions and sounds that the people are making prior to finally having the life snuff out of them. Like, yeah, expect that, but in RPG form. So this is the
Great.
third game in the trilogy. They're all connected. So if you play the previous game, this is a continuation of that. And it is expected to come out in 2025 for PS4, 5, and the Switch for both physical and digital. I should add that this time they're not doing like a traditional kind of like turn-based RPG. I don't know what they're doing. I think this is kind of like a rogue light kind of game this time. But I am trying to find more information, but I couldn't not because they're not available, but I simply did not have time to look deeper into what it is that they're working on. I just know that it's not a traditional turn-based this time around from some previous things I've seen. So, but I am definitely looking forward to it because the story is what makes this game less than gameplay. As long as the gameplay is like satisfactory, I think I'll be good.
All right. Well,
Yep.
next up we've got this little game from East Asia Soft, who announced that they're going to be bringing the Compile Heart dungeon RPG called Tokyo Clanpool to the West. This game was originally released on the Vita back in 2017, and this is the first time that the game will be made available in English. And we have a little teaser trailer to go along with that as well. So let's check it out. Nope, wrong button.
The most professional.
Most professional stream.
Most professional stream. I think this is cool because you know that they're bringing like Vita games to that would have otherwise been stuck in Vita to Steam, which obviously the library I feel like is a lot more trustworthy than, I don't know, PlayStation Network or whatever the Nintendo variants of it, because they closed those for the consoles. But
Yeah.
hey, it lives on in Steam, and I'm happy to see it. I guess the weird thing about this is, of course, so Compound Heart is a subsidiary. I think it's fair to say subsidiary. I don't know
Of
the exact
Idea
relationship.
Factory?
Yeah, of Idea Factory, and of course, Idea Factory published their own game. So it's a little weird to see them not publishing this by themselves and deferring to a different company for publishing. But here we are, you know, and I do want to mention that this is not actually the first time that East Asia Shop have bring a game from like Idea Factory's library to modern console.
Yeah.
I think it's like Hakuoki, like it's a visual novel that they had. They brought that over from Idea Factory. But yeah, nonetheless, you do have to wonder why like Idea Factory doesn't just like publish the game. I'm sure they have good reasons for it, but here we are. So just in case you're wondering like who the heck is this like East Asia Soft, they port a lot of games. They publish a lot of games. So it's like their thing. They don't develop anything. All they do is port and publish to the West.
Alrighty.
That's like the specialty. So yeah, I'm excited for what other things they do, more so than like just this game itself.
Yeah, well, for this one, we can at least expect to see this game on the Nintendo Switch and PC sometime this year. That's about as close as we have to a defined date range, but we'll be
right.
sure to let you know if we know more.
All right, now these next two I think are like the crowd pleasers. We knew
yeah.
this was coming. We knew since day one that this game was coming. But Falcon finally gave us a firm release date of the much anticipated East 10 Nordics, and we have a new trailer to go with that.
Oh, okay. Should we watch that trailer or should we just skip this one?
I want to watch it. I haven't seen the new trailer yet.
I'm kidding. Let's go ahead and watch it. It's like, of course we're gonna watch this trailer. Let's check this out.
Oh my god. Sorry, Trails fan. I am a East guy through and through, and you know, I get it. When you guys see Daybreak, I'm like, okay, but when I see this, I am excited.
Yep.
Like this is what gets me going.
Oh man.
Name's Karja. I'm a Norman, a pirate.
The English voice acting is quality has definitely gone up since the SD years. Ooh, epic adventure across the high seas. So chronologically, East 10 is the first story after East 1 and 2. So it's one of the earliest story chronologically, yes. I think there's like a 17, 18-year-old Adol.
Okay.
So like East 1 and 2, I think he's 16, and then I think this is like 17, 18-ish time frame. And then East 9 is like the oldest. I think he's like 26 or so, 20 something.
Yeah.
Like mid late 20s.
It's kind of wild what they've chosen to do with the numbering of all of these. Oh yeah, it's East 10, but it's third in the chronology. Like, why would they do that? Oh, it's Gandalf.
Because they can pick and choose what timeline to talk about. It's like, I don't want to call it a prequel, but you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I respect it. I kind of like that they do that, to be honest. It gives them the flexibility to like insert story into a chronology. Kind of like Star Ocean in a way, where they kind of like bounce back and forth. It's the same universe. but they can kind of bounce back
I
and
kind of
forth.
see that too. It's just part of me is just like, man, Falcom are the kings of like confusing people about where they should start playing their games.
Well, okay, to be fair with Trails though, it is like linear. Like you start
Oh
with
yeah.
Sky. They
Yeah.
don't like then do like a Sky prequel and then like insert something in the middle. Like
Yeah.
there's nothing as chaotic as East. East is insane. But I
East
feel
insane
like
indeed.
yeah, I feel like my headcanon for East. I'll share this since we're talking about East. My headcanon for East is that all of this stuff is just it's just Adol just like making stuff up as an old man. Like so the lore for so the end lore for East is already written out. Like you already know how the story ends. Kind of like how the end of life of Adol, that's already written out. Like he lives until whatever age, he has this diary of all his adventures, and basically you're reading his diary as you're playing the game. So it was a really cool concept. So like, yeah, as you're experiencing each of the game, you're really just experiencing chapters of like his like story that he's written.
So the chronology is really just like he's just writing down stories in whatever order he feels like, and you're writing them as he's writing them.
Well, I don't know if that's how they're going about it exactly, but yeah, but basically each time you do like an East game, it's just like one of the adventures from the many adventures of his long lifetime as an adventurer, right? And you have to wonder how many times he got into shipwrecks and lost all his memories. Like he's not a reliable protagonist, like at all, right? So you've got to wonder like which part of it was embellished, and all these ladies who are just like in love with him and he just leaves them. I'm like, Goddess fell in love with you, you say? I don't know about that, Adol. I think you're just making stuff up. But anyways, that's my headcanon for the entire East series, and I love it. The games are great, and if anyone is looking for like an easy action RPG to get into, try the East series. I think they're great. This game is coming out in October 25th, and I'm super stoked for it. Even though I'm still behind in the East games, maybe I'll like speed it up a little bit and play some of the other ones. For PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4 and 5, Switch and PC.
Cool. So you know what's even better than a brand new East trailer?
What's that?
2 brand new East trailers.
What?
I know. Yeah, we weren't really sure if this one was coming west, but Falcom is delivering East's Memoire, The Oath in Felghana, that was previously released in Japan, and now it's coming to the west thanks to, strangely, Exceed is doing this one.
That was
So,
surprising.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised by that, but let's check out the trailer.
Probably because they still have the publishing rights, and
That was my thought too.
yeah.
Hello
But
there.
let's be real.
My name's Adam.
Nisa's probably got their hands full with the Trail series at this point.
And all the like
And-
new East games.
Yeah, and East Nordics and
Yeah.
yeah.
So you can use the new illustration or the old illustration. It's fully voiced, which is really cool in Japanese and English.
Yeah. Adol's got a voice. He's, hear him
I want to.
shouting
Oh
and stuff.
no! It's that boss gives me PTSD. The one that uses. oh no, not this guy.
Oh, you can play in fast forward and like double time.
Yeah,
You can
Die
fast forward
faster.
through that boss fight.
just die faster.
Yeah.
If the game wasn't fast enough for you, you can speed it up some more on hell mode.
Coming in 2025.
All right. So yeah, 2025. Oh yeah. Oh, and there's some special edition stuff you can take a look at
yeah.
if you're interested. Soundtracks, stuff like that. So yeah, it's coming out on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, I think this is great for, and I didn't know this. I didn't think about it until I mentioned something on my Discord. Then someone said something. I was like, I mean, they already had this on Steam. Like they already had a very good version. I wonder why they're doing this. And then they're like, well, some people don't have a gaming computer. I'm like, you know what? You're right, because I didn't know that. It was basically only released on the Steam, but now if you're on PS4, 5, or Switch, you can enjoy Felghana, which I will say I feel like Felghana is like the last like true difficult um East game that does not require you to turn up the difficulty. Like just plain normal difficulty is already really tough.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I feel like subsequent East game that toned down the normal difficulty. You can
Made it a
still
little more
turn it to
approachable.
nightmare mode. I mean, you can make any East game difficult, but like for the normal difficulty, I feel like East 3 is like the last one in the series, not including Origin.
Okay.
All right. Well, that concludes all of the upcoming games. I'm sure all of you guys are super excited and like bookmarking things and going to Kickstarters. But we do want to talk a little bit about industry news now. Of which there are kind of two similar things. Let's start with this one called Shueisha Games On. So Shueisha is a publishing company in Japan. They are known for publishing books. Actually, they're kind of like a Kadokawa competitor in that space. But of course, as you get larger and publish like all kinds of different things, they get into anime, they get into games. So Shueisha Game is relatively new, I want to say, or at least the effort in pushing this to be a larger segment is relatively new, and they are doing their own showcase called Shueisha Games on July 17th. You can actually watch that on YouTube. So if that's something that you are interested in, definitely keep an eye out for it. Now, if you don't necessarily care about Shueisha games per se, this one might still be interesting. This next thing is called the BitSummit Drift. For those who have never heard of BitSummit before, I mean, we've talked about BitSummit in the past, but just a refresher, BitSummit is basically the largest indie game showcase in Japan. So think like
Oh.
TGS, and then there's BitSummit. Like BitSummit is huge. And I think they've been doing this for like since like 2012. I think so. It's been a little while since they've been doing this. This year is called BitSummit Drift. It is happening in July 19th through July 21st.
Oh, we're gonna have a lot to talk about soon.
Oh, jeez, yeah, I am not. Well, I don't think it's going to be half as bad as the Summer Game Fest, like of like the day of like 15 different showcases, and I'm like just sitting there watching. I got so showcased out that weekend.
Yeah.
This is only like a 3-day event, and probably get some kind of summary written up for what's like 19, 21st. Yeah, we'll probably have some kind of like summary for the next hit point for BitSummit Drift. If there are anything that's noteworthy, I'm sure that there are plenty of things that we'll end up seeing, and we may end up seeing some things that we have already seen before. So who knows? But you can watch it yourself on YouTube and Twitch, and they'll also talk about Shueisha stuff in there. So yeah, BitSummit Drift. Check that out this next weekend. If you're interested in indie games, and I certainly am. But if not, if you don't feel like watching it, that's fine. You can just watch HitPoint, and we'll just give you the abbreviated version of it.
All right. Well, I guess that brings us really to just sort of community news, which is really just kind of recapping our experiences hanging out in person
Yeah.
during Too Many Games. 2 weeks ago, was it?
Was it 2 weeks ago? Or like
It wasn't last weekend, because
it
last
wasn't
weekend.
last weekend.
Yeah, last weekend we were just
Well,
tired.
it feels like 3 weekends ago because now we're like in the like end part of this weekend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, it is like 2 weekends ago.
Yeah. Oh man. So yeah, I haven't really talked about being at Too Many Games at all. So I'll just kind of recount some of my experiences. Amy and I went out to Pennsylvania, to what's the Philadelphia? That's the name of the city. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It was a lot of fun. We flew out there on like the Thursday prior. Met up with my buddy Wood from Beat 'em Ups. I got to stay at his place for a few days, and we went to Too Many Games together. And on Sunday, Baku and I got to actually meet in person for the first
Wait.
time ever.
Hold on, it was Saturday, not Sunday.
Yeah, you're right. Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday.
Not Sunday.
Not
Saturday.
Sunday.
See,
Yes.
it's a good thing you're here to help keep my story straight. I'm here to establish alibis. So,
Yeah, that I mean, you all would be surprised to know that is the first time I've ever met Derek in person.
I know. It's actually kind of funny because people that I would like talk to about it, they're like, "Wait, you've never met him before? You've had a podcast for 2 years and you've never met him?" It's like, yeah, I don't leave the house. What are you talking about?
I think people have forgotten like COVID was the thing. So, like
Yeah,
like meeting is not like like we're still kind of recovering from that entire ordeal. But I guess it's a good thing that people are forgetting. I don't know. But yeah.
moving on. It's cool.
Yeah. Mhm.
But yeah, too many games. How would you describe your time at Too Many Games?
Oh. Okay,
You
so
can be honest. It's fine.
I'll give like the good. I'll start with the good stuff, right? The
Okay.
good part is I feel like I was kind of like there with my people again. Just all the nerds, and
Yes.
all the weebs, and all the cosplay, and I'm like,
Reconnecting with the
kind of
community.
breathing that like energy in that weeb nerd geek energy. I love it.
Absorbing that
vibe.
conf.
Yeah. Oh, I absolutely vibe in that kind of environment. Love the enthusiasm of, like when I don't know if that's the experience for a lot of people, right? But it's definitely an experience for me. Like growing up, it's part of the reason why I streamed it. Like growing up, like these RPGs or these kind of things, like they're not exactly what every kids are into. Like some of them are into sports or whatever, but I'm like, yay, go sports. But me, like my main passion is like playing games, and that hasn't changed since childhood. But that was kind of like there was just no outlet, right? And there's no way to talk to people about it because they're just not as into it. And then I went to my first convention ever, and it's like an anime convention. It's called Otakon. It used to be in Baltimore,
Yeah.
where I finally see like a whole convention hall of people who are like into that same thing. And before that, I was like in the anime club in high school, but that's a different story for a different day. But I thought like the anime club would be like the extent of being able to find people to connect with for
Yeah.
like a hobby. And then I went to Otakon, and just like my mind was blown. I'm like, wow, there's like a whole industry of weirdos like me.
Yes.
And I love it, right? And the crazier thing is that there seems to be no like slowing down of people getting into the hobby. It's not like this is a fad and it's like dropping. No, it's like year by year there are more people getting into games and into all these like stuff, and into like the weebdom and the geekdom, if you will. That when I go to this convention, I'm seeing a lot of like people bringing their kids, and then like just or maybe just like relatively younger attendees. It just makes me feel so hopeful. It's like, oh wow, here you're you guys are the new generation that's gonna drive this stuff. Like that is so great. So yeah, that's the good part. The bad part, it is the stinkiest convention I've ever been to.
Was it really? Oh
It
no.
is. It might be because it's just really hot that day too.
It was
right?
pretty
So
toasty. I don't think Philadelphia was typically prepared for that kind of weather.
Yeah, I don't
'Cause it
want
was
to.
in the 90s, but
Yeah, I don't want to accuse people of not wearing deodorant and not showering, but it sure smelled that way in there. I was like, ooh, damn, this is
there were some pretty major offenders.
it was pretty bad.
Now, I
it's-
will say, for context, my first conventions were the Portland Retro Gaming Expos that I had attended. So I will say this one didn't smell the worst that I've attended, but it's
Oh,
certainly
boy.
it's don't forget to pack your deodorants, ladies and gents.
Yeah, please shower before and after the convention. It's very helpful.
Yes.
Although I am still trying to talk Derek into going to MAGFest because that's the one that I swear by, and I think MAGFest is better than this. Now, granted, MAGFest is larger and more crowded. It's just more
Like,
people.
A little more claustrophobic than that.
Oh, well, but the space is also like 3, 4, 5 times larger. So
So
it's
how's like the space per capita, would you say? Was it as like shoulder to shoulder or more
no,
spacious?
no, it's more spacious.
Okay,
Yeah.
I
So
could
you
do
have this
better with
like
that.
entire hotel convention area. It's more spacious, but it's more people, but it's a way larger space too.
Yeah,
It's just
I see.
they're not on the same like level as far as like attendees is concerned. Like this is a small con compared to MAGFest. But I swear by MAGFest because I keep telling Derek about it. You have the 24-hour indie, oh, sorry, not indie. You have 24-hour console game room, 24-hour arcade machine room, and then there's like the indie showcase room in the center, and then there's the tabletop game room, lands game room. There's even a room for role playing.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, a role playing RPG. Then there is it's just like a bunch of there's a whole concert hall that basically plays music back to back to back to back, and they're all music themes. They have musical guests. One time they brought like the Ridge Racer guy, and he was DJing like at the convention, at the concert hall. And then they're not impromptu, they're like planned performances that are like in the uh like the gazebo. Yes,
Okay.
and one of the people who goes there regularly is the Triforce Quartet, which you can look up the videos. They're freaking amazing. I watched their concert and it's free. They play for free. It's not like a separate concert. Like, if you go to some of the anime conventions, like, oh yeah, no, we have this special guest, but you have to pay for that. No, all of these are free. It's all covered by your entry. And the best thing about MAGFest is this: when you play games, you will never know whether or not you're sitting with some kind of industry legend and you're just playing the tabletop games with them, because that's what happened to me. I don't know if you guys know about this one game called it's one of the Gary mods. It's like a really famous Gary mod on Half-Life. It's this game where like you go through like a first person, and he's kind of in the office. And
Stanley Parable?
thank you, Stanley Parable. I was like Stanley Parable. Yeah, I met the creator
Oh, nice.
unknowingly because I was just playing tabletop games with him the whole
Yeah.
night. Because one of my friend knows him apparently, and they were playing games. I walked by, and then we just sat down. We just started playing games. And then he's like, "Hey, I gotta go to this thing." And then I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm going there too." And he's like, "Well, I will see you there," And he left a little bit ahead. And then I see him on the stage. Right? I'm just like, oh, wow, okay. I didn't know that he's kind of a big shot, right? So I'm just
Yeah.
sitting there, and then they announced him. They're like, oh yeah, this is the guy who made Stanley Parable. I was like, well played, sir, well played. It's
Nice.
what a way to introduce yourself. Yeah, but you just never know, because this is not like a game industry convention. This is a let's hang out convention. So
see what you're
that's
saying.
where I met up with like something classic. They always fly down there because some of them live in Canada, and
hey.
they will have the games there.
In order to bring it back to Too Many Games,
Yes.
we did get to meet a indie developer while we were out there.
Ooh, that's right.
And I would be remiss to not talk about the fact that we got to play the demo of Kingdoms of the Dump while we were
super
out
good.
there. They actually had, a few of the developers were there in their day job janitorial gear, which I thought was just a really like fitting kind of way to introduce the game, to be out there in their like gray jumpsuits and stuff. We got to play the demo. Did you play the demo, or did you get to play the extended?
I played a little bit. I just wanted to get a feel because I didn't want to
Yeah.
get too much of a spoiler. Also, didn't want to take up people's time because I was right I was
Mhm.
already bought, like I was already sold. Sorry, I was already sold on the game, so I didn't
Yeah.
want to like waste their limited slots to demo to people who are kind of on the fence still.
Yeah.
I just wanted to try the battle system, and let me tell you that game was pretty darn good. Like I am
Yeah.
so excited. I'm hyping responsibly,
Mhm,
but
mhm.
it's just everything about that game was so well made that it makes me feel so hopeful. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
The battle system, if I have to to kind of vaguely describe it a little bit, is it reminds me of Live Alive. If you guys have played
Mhm.
that, it's kind of like that grid-based system where you have like, a few characters on the right, a few characters on the left, but it's like a 5 by 5 grid. And in that, there's real-time combat mechanics. So like, as in like the Paper Mario button presses to like get the bonus damage or to reduce incoming attacks. And when you defeat enemies, they leave like area of effect stuff there. So like, if you defeat a glass bottle, it'll leave like shards of glass on the ground that can
Mhm.
hurt other enemies in the field. It's really neat, and you can like jump up and around on platforms that are like these giant heaps of garbage. The developers were like, yeah, this is probably going to be perfect for speedrunners who just, like to, break things and go in, you know, break sequences and stuff. But it's so fun. It looks so cool,
Mhm.
and there's a whole lot of lore behind it. I got to play not only the demo though,
Mhm.
they also had a second laptop set up there that allows you to play their current development build. So there's like no hard cutoff on it. So I was like, I was playing for a while. I'm like, when does this end? And they're just like, it kind of doesn't. It's just our development build. You kind of
in
can do
in
whatever you want here. I'm like, oh, I should probably stop playing then so other people can enjoy. So,
in the industry they call that free QA.
oh yes, indeed. But
The,
it was
yeah, the
fun.
amount of times I sit down in one of these and catch bugs and just tell the dev, and they fix it right there and
I
then.
know.
They're like, "Oh, there's this thing. Okay, you should be good now." I'm like, "Oh
Yeah.
my god!" Like this is part of the development process. It's super
Yeah.
cool.
I didn't
Yeah.
run into any bugs though, except for the ones that I killed in game.
Did you find? Did you want to show them the picture that Amy took of you?
Oh, I don't have it on my computer.
Oh
They're
no.
all here. I mean, yeah, I don't think I have it to show off right now,
That's
but maybe
okay.
later.
Yeah.
I'm gonna reach back out to the folks there, making Kingdoms of the Dump, and see about getting, some more time with the game. And
Oh
and
yeah.
if I do, I'll be sure to include some of the footage that I took of Baku playing while we were at Too Many Games, and I think Amy got some footage of me playing. So we'll showcase it all there. It was a lot of fun. And you know what? Highlight when I went there, in Philadelphia, I had a Philly.
Hmm.
They had it at the con,
Hmm.
and it was in the cafeteria. It was mid. I had
Oh,
a
Philly cheesesteak. Yeah,
yep.
Philly cheesesteak is mid,
I had
even
a
in Philly.
Oh
Yeah.
no. I love Philly cheesesteaks generally, but the one from the convention center was bad. So as a result, I feel like Philly just doesn't do Philly cheesesteaks well. Prove me wrong, Philly.
Oh, you're gonna
I'll
get
I'll be out
so
there
much
next time.
hate. You're gonna get
Next time I
so
go out
much
there, I'll get it
hate.
somewhere plain. But I was like, I have to get at least one Philly cheesesteak while I'm here.
Mhm.
And that was the only place that was accessible. So
Well,
um,
the food that we got that night was super good.
that's what I was leading into. The
Yeah.
best food that I had that entire trip. I don't remember the name of the place. Do you?
Mhm. I do not.
It was a soup dumpling place
Mhm.
in what's the name of the King of Prussia Mall? Yeah.
Yes. Yes, it was the
Yeah,
King of Prussia.
King of Prussia Mall. There was
Mhm.
this soup dumpling place, which is not a dumpling soup place. No, no, this is not soup with dumplings in it. This is
Mhm.
dumplings, steamed dumplings with soup in it, and
Yeah.
those were incredible. There's this dim sum place. Oh man, we wrapped it off with a durian puff, and I didn't make a fool of myself eating it. I'm very pleased by that.
No, I think you did really well. You and Amy both did really well eating a soup dumpling and not make a complete mess.
Oh, it was the durian puff I was concerned about. It was, because you hear so many things about durian and like, oh
Mhm.
man, I've never had it before. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, bottoms up, do it.
Yeah. No, the problem with durians too is, you can have good oranges, bad oranges, right?
Oh, that's true,
and
yeah.
yeah, and the fresh good durians are all in Southeast Asia, and they have to be in season. And
Mm.
whoever gets the durian, whatever time when they film like whatever challenge they're doing, I don't know. I don't even know if they got like the good durian or not. They could have gotten like the equivalent of a sour orange, and then
Oh, yeah.
they declare that oranges are disgusting, right? It's like, well, that wouldn't be fair. You didn't get the in season good oranges, and
Yeah.
you've tried it all one time, and you've already declared dead for the fruit. I'm like, I don't know about this. Do you even know how to pick a durian, right? But the ones that we did get, or not the fruit but the dessert, that was actually very well made, so I'm glad that your experience was like a pleasantable a one. Yeah, but man, I'm glad that we met up. Look forward to talking Derek into going to wink wink MAGFest. Also looking forward to talking Saxon into going to MAGFest. I don't know, I
Oh.
feel like Saxon is still here. It's like, if you're still here, talk to the Something Classic guys. See how you can, maybe showcase your game at MAGFest, because you could totally do that.
Oh, yeah.
They're always looking for indie developers to bring their games there to showcase to many people who attend. So definitely not a fringe suggestion. You do get a lot of exposure at MAGFest.
Yeah.
I don't know. And also, because you're a sit down co-op game, I mean, how else are you gonna get people to sit down and co-op
Oh,
other than
yeah.
in person, right? I don't
yeah.
know. I don't know, Saxon. You might want to think about that. We might see you in person there.
Yeah. Don't underestimate the power of putting a product in someone's
Oh,
hands.
geez, yeah, that word of mouth, like, better than a whole lot of other things you could do.
All right.
I do respect that Australia is quite far away, and boy, it's a whole different. I was talking to them. I was like, "What time is it for you guys over there?" And I didn't know they're in Australia. They're like, "Oh, it's 3 a.m. and it's like 3 p.m. here." I'm like, "Oh, geez, it's 12 hours. I'm so sorry." But
Really
yeah,
awesome of them to wake up at the butt crack of dawn just to get ready to be on a stream at 7:15 in the morning.
Jeez.
That's incredible. So thank you
And
so
getting grilled by us and chat. Oh, jeez.
much. All right. Well, I wanted to cover a couple of the super chats that we've gotten throughout the night
Yes.
here. The first one is just from Bro Dude Man Bro, who says, "I love you, Baku."
Thank you, sir.
And then
Love you
we
too,
got
bro.
one. We got one here from Eagle Knight, who says, "A new Nightbacker appears. Looking forward to checking this out. A big fan of these mana style action RPGs."
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Look at you. Look at you back in that game, Eagle
Yeah.
Knight.
Well, thank you for supporting us and for supporting the game. Again, everybody, Infinity Knights Cross. They got 10
Yes.
days left in their Kickstarter. Go check out their Kickstarter. Link in the video description. There's also a link to the Steam page where you can add it to your wish list. So if you can't back them right now, at least you'll be able to know when it goes live so you can buy it then. And I think that about covers everything here for the day. So, Baku,
Yes.
have you got any closing thoughts for the people?
If you like the interview, definitely thumbs up. Let us know how you feel about it, and if there are ways to make it better, let us know. I mean, this is kind of our first go around, and again, just want to thank Saxon again for taking us on to do this. Really appreciate it. But yeah, look forward to doing more of these in the future.
All right. Well, take care, everybody, and we'll see you all in the next episode. Have a great night. Bada